welcome to Let's Talk Sports. I'm your host, Winnie V, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Lome, Engine, and PL. Now, Let's Talk Sports is a podcast for sports fans created by a bunch of lads with uneducated sports IQs while throwing a bit of banter in the mix. Now, in each episode, we'll give our honest opinions and try our best to do a deep dive into whatever sport is trending at the time of recording. Now, to start off, let's do a quick introduction, boys. I'll get the lads to introduce themselves. Just a bit about yourselves, where you guys are based, and what sport teams you guys follow, and what sport teams you can't stand. So, Loms, take it away, brother.
What's up, everyone? Jerome Chung is the name, aka Loms. Massive league fan, go for the Bunnies and the Hurricanes in the Union. But can't stand the Roosters and the Panthers because to me they're shit. Yeah, thank you.
Ooh. Good evening, everyone. My name is Engine. I live in Melbourne, in the West. I love rugby league, and I'm a new follower of NFL. My teams are the Sea Eagles, Manly Sea Eagles, since I was a wee young lad. And my team that I hate the most is, funny enough, the Melbourne Storm. I think they cheat a lot. But anyway, I'm a Philadelphia Eagles fan, and one team I hate the most, that I hate so bad, is America's team, the Colts, and the Titans. Oh, sorry, the Cowboys. Sorry, like I said, this is only my second year. So, thank you very much, and let's go to the Titans.
Hi everyone, Poni Luffy. I live in Wainui, and my teams are the Canberra Raiders, the Tennessee Titans, and the San Antonio Spurs. The teams that I dislike, the Brisbane Broncos, the Colts, obviously, because that's Winnie's team as well, and in basketball, probably the Lakers and the Clippers, because they always get the most attention. And I follow a team that is very small fan base, but always loyal to those teams anyway. So, thanks for having me on.
Thank you, brothers. Just a bit about myself. Rizzy. And teams I follow, sports-wise, we've got the Hurricanes, we've got the All Blacks, got the Penrith Panthers, Indianapolis Colts, the Houston Rockets, and recently Liverpool. And the teams I can't stand is every other team that's in any competition or any sport that I follow. So that's a bit about me. Now,
Recently. Sorry.
Now, this episode, we're just going to talk about the Toa Samoa Rugby League World Cup team. Now, they did amazing in this tournament, finishing second. But what we're going to do is we're going to start from the beginning, and we'll start with the expectations we had for this team pre-World Cup. So, fellas, whoever wants to go first, what were your expectations going into the World Cup before that defeat against England in the first round?
I don't really think I had an expectation, really. It's a new team. The boys were all young and they haven't played together, so my expectation wasn't really that high, I guess, pre-World Cup. But so PL?
Yeah, I think once the squad was named, I kind of had a rough draft of the players that would likely select rather than the players that were selected in the end. And to see the amount of boys that had declared from Origin, and definitely Joseph, it really kind of upped everything. So once the squad was named and watching 360 and all the commentary there, I bought into the hype, and I thought we were at least semi-finalists, based on the naming of the squad. So yeah, pretty high expectations going into the tournament.
What about you, Injured?
Oh well, thank you for the question. I'm a person that hates to be disappointed, right? So my expectations were really low. And when I saw that Samoa were favourites to beat England in the first game, I thought that was mad value. So I put $20 on England to beat Samoa. And when it came true, all the old World Cup started flooding back into my head. Here we go again. We're not going to make the quarterfinals. Or we're going to draw a game and make the quarterfinals and then lose to Tonga. That was what went through my head. And when they lost, so now it's yeah. That was it, bro. I'm not watching any more games.
Yeah, I think the majority of our fans had high expectations. Even the so-called experts had Samoa really high on their board. But after their first loss to England, everything just came crashing down, even especially with the media. The articles that were just coming out saying, we've already choked and, Samoa are the biggest build-ups. But like Luai said, the loss to England was a blessing in disguise for our team. And we got to remember, apparently, half the team had been in England for a little while. And then the rest of the boys that had come in from the grand final had joined. And maybe you would have been lucky if they had a week of preparation, those boys joining in with the rest of the guys that were already there. So I thought, they did well to turn it around. Now, did you guys see that turnaround from our team after the England loss? I'll be honest. One thing that I was happy about, I wasn't happy that we lost and how we lost. I was really cut about it, but knowing that we would eventually meet Tonga in the quarters, that was the game I really wanted. I think that was the game that a lot of Islanders wanted, a Tonga Samoa game. Like, that was the grand final for me. And knowing that the Kiwis and the Kangaroos would meet up in the semis, I was already happy knowing that that's how it's all going to play out after we lost that game to England. Now, during the easier games for Toa Samoa, that was where we really got to work on the combos, players. It looked like when we played England, it was just all over the place, but with those games against France, that was a really good chance for our boys to build up together. I thought the France-Samoa game, there was a lot of talk about that game being the game that we really needed to win just to progress,
Yeah.
What were your thoughts going into the France-Samoa game? Because I didn't know, I knew France had a team and, most of them were the guys in the Super League, but I didn't really think that they were a threat to Samoa at all. What about you guys?
Yeah, I think just going back a bit, after the first game, the loss to England, it kind of the need for a warm-up game before heading into the tournament. Like you said, you had a few guys there, and then the grand final boys came in after. So they weren't able to train together as much, or just work on combinations and everything like that. So the importance of a warm-up game, because Tonga, New Zealand, Australia, they had warm-up games. And so after the loss, we played Greece. We played Greece first before we played France. My whole thing was, I knew in my heart that would deal to them, because we've had that first game jitters and whatnot. But actually, I was the opposite to you. Whenever that loss to England meant that we were going to face Tonga in the quarters, and so I was thinking that had we beaten England, we would have had a more easier quarterfinal against Papua New Guinea. But yeah, just with those games anyway, after the loss to England, I knew that they would get it together. And unfortunately, the injuries hit the team, so we had to pull in some of the English-based players to come in, and another blessing in disguise, really. So it worked out in the end.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, I was all for the Toa Samoa quarterfinal, but it's interesting that you were worried about our team going that road in the competition. What about you boys? Did you think it was a great thing, the loss to England for our team?
Yeah, bro. Yep. Nah, in hindsight, it's always a great thing just when you look back. But my worry game was France because of how good they were against England in the first half.
Right.
And I think we played, I'm not too sure, but I think we played France in the last World Cup and we drew. Is that correct? Do you remember that?
Can't remember, bro, to be honest.
I remember that one.
I just remember they didn't win a game in that World Cup,
Samoa.
but they still got through to the quarterfinals.
That's
right. And it was that's what worried me. I was thinking, oh no, if we don't beat these guys by a healthy margin, then far men, at least we made it to the quarterfinals. But honestly, it was when they beat France, the way they beat France, that's when my expectations went right through the roof, and I was like, I think we can actually do something here, because they actually started to look like they had an actual game plan. You can see what they were building towards, So, yeah, that's where my confidence came from.
Yep.
Loms?
Yeah. No, I don't think I was too worried about the whole France game. Like PL said, I think it was all like from the beginning that the boys didn't even have like a pre-game or like a trial game or a warm-up game before the tournament, as Australia and New Zealand did. And that first game jitters was out of the way, and then we had Greece and France. Those two teams, to me, we had the boys there to just absolutely annihilate these teams, and which we did. So yeah, I wasn't too worried about it. I think the worry came after we lost to England, as facing Tonga in the quarters. So.
Well, let's move on to the Tonga and Samoa game. Man, what a game that was, eh? And there was so much riding on that game, not just for the players, but also the fans, eh? The bragging rights that the Samoans or the Tongans could have had. Now, we're all Samoan boys, and we all have friends that are Tongans as well. And I've got nothing but love for our Tongan brothers and sisters. But man, it felt good having the bragging rights, hey boys. How good did that feel? But big shout out to Tonga, because like it's been touched all over the media and everyone else on social media, they really did pave the way for our for this. The players, Taumalolo and Fafita, joining Tonga over Origin in Australia, or the Kiwis for Taumalolo. And that's what we saw with this Toa Samoa team as well, with a lot of our Origin players that played Origin putting their hand up for Samoa. Now, with the Tonga game, do you guys want to say anything on that win for our team?
I think the difference in that game was the halves. We had the more experienced halves, and that's probably that was probably one of Milford's best games he's had in like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
It was good for him, and good for us. Like, that's the last guy you'd think that would actually have any influence in the game, but he had a massive influence in the game. So thank you to my doggos, and nah, love yous, man. It's okay. We all brothers.
Nothing but love. Yep, nothing but love.
Yeah, like Engine touched on, I think the halves, like the spine that we had, was a lot more dominant than their spine, and more experience as well. You know, their spine, they had, I think, Havili starting at 9, and throughout the year, he's only been coming on, like playing 9 for, you know, not even half a game. Most of the time, he's playing that loose forward
Second
role.
row, and yep.
Yeah, and then you have like that young Couture. Nothing against him, bro. He's just inexperienced. You're going up against someone like Milford. You know, it's a learning curve for him. And they had Will Help Whitey at the back. You know, I think he's a bit beyond his time now. But yeah, I think the spine was the one that really did it for us. You know, our spine was a lot more experienced and I think willing to win the game for us.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on the Tonga Samoa game, Poni?
Yeah, I mean, you know, like I mentioned before, the worry for me was just all the hype that came with Tonga, with MNT, you know, the movement that they created back in the last World Cup, which you've touched on, Taumalolo and Fifita, you know, paving the way for Tongans. They were playing for Australia and New Zealand, you know, and so when they named their squad, it was like stacked, you know, from 1 to however. And you think about just the even other Tongans that didn't make the cut, you know, so much depth across the positions, and not to mention that the fact that in 2017, you know, they dealt to Samoa in the pool play. Almost went to the final also, unluckily caught back by a strip, Fita's try, or near the try line. Whitehead had seemingly raked the ball out. But then you think about their wins over Australia and then Great Britain, you know, so you think about the success Tonga had leading into this World Cup and the expectations for them to actually make the final and possibly go on to win it. And so they've had that experience. That's why that was my concern, is that if we meet them in the quarterfinal, that, you know, they'll probably beat us and whatnot. But yeah, just that game in general. Milford had probably his best game of the tournament. Then he really stood up. Swally, you know, lethal every time he touched the ball. So it was just quite surprising, really, how we really dominated them, and we really should have put more points on them, to be honest. In terms of just like how Way and Milford were distributing the ball, you know, second man play was really working, and just our threats across the board. You know, their forward pack, you know, they did a bit of damage, but not the expected damage that we thought that they would. You know, Tomalolo didn't really make any inroads as well. So it was a great win. Although it was a great win, it showed that you know, we were working towards something bigger, just from the boys playing together. But yeah, always good to beat Tonga.
Yeah. From the Samoan perspective, it is always good, and I'm sure they feel the same when they beat us in whatever sport is going on. Now, the game of the tournament, England versus Samoa. How good was that game, boys? That was the game of the tournament, not only for us Samoan fans, but I think that was the overall census from people on social media that was the game of the tournament. Now, that game, we had everything in it. You were on the edge of your seat throughout the whole game. What were you guys? What do you guys think? So I'll let you guys do all the talking here. But what were your thoughts on the England Samoa game, boys?
You know, like I said, you know, we were leading to something bigger, and that game, edge of your seat. You've got England. We were playing at home. Psychologically, they got that edge because they're beating us by 54 points in the first game, and so there's just the media are just talking about, you know, England winning, not by that much again. You know, they were saying that Samoa would improve, but they will still win by 20
20,
or
30
25
points.
points. Yeah.
Mm.
And so when you're watching the game, and then we score that first try to Lafay on the left edge, and you're starting to see just how well that left edge is doing offensively. The boys got the ball on the string, and they scored on our right side a lot, and that's where Milford Super they were always going through that channel. I think Whitehead was probably the player of the game. He was really plugging those holes with the other Raider,
Williams.
George Williams. So it's back and forth, but interestingly, before Crichton had intercepted that ball, they were looking dangerous. They were looking like they were going to score. And then he plucked that out of the air and then really turned the game. So one of the best games ever. One that I'll save on my Sky till whenever, just like the Samoa Australia game just before the Rugby World Cup. Yeah, but just an awesome game to witness watching. Yeah.
Yeah. What about you boys? In Loms on the England Samoa game?
That game, it just changed everything. It changed the atmosphere through, all these parades and that. Because, like, every time I saw a parade, I said, "Oh, I can watch it from my phone. It's okay."
Yeah.
But as the boys kept getting better and better, and then you started to believe, and you started to look out the window, thinking, "I think I might join their parade." I think I'm coming. I think. But it started a movement, and the biggest difference was, I think, like Bongi was saying, they were building to something bigger. And then, like, you see that Tongan game, you could see the game plan that they were using, and I don't like using this team as an example, but they were actually playing. No, don't do it.
Don't do it.
Just don't do it.
Bro. You want to do it. Let's go.
Well,
Fucking hell.
they were using this Western Sydney style of play. So, it was very, very clear to see, it was pretty much the same, same sort of structure, but instead of having Edwards, you got Suali'i. Okay, now who do you want to be running at yourself? I'll have Edwards. Edwards, you can run at me, right? It's okay. But man, Suali'i was making like the extra 5 meters post contact meters, so that was one of the biggest impacts. And then the history was made, and Oile Toa.
Well, that's like a 19-year-old, like going back to Swali, a 19-year-old running at fully grown men.
Wow.
So that was like crazy to watch, like, a guy with so much heart. He's got the size and everything, but he knows how to use it. So that was really like.
But
awesome
even touching on that, like, if you go back to the Tonga game, he's doing against some of the best and most feared forwards in the NRL. You know what I mean? Like, he's doing it, and he's only 19. But for me, with the England game, like the boys were saying, bro, phenomenal. Like, it was hands down probably the best game you'll ever watch when it comes to rugby league. That game, like Engine was saying, I don't like saying that. I said it in my intro. I fucking hate this team, but these Penrith players really stood out for me. Like, as hard as it is for me to say it, but these guys, Luai grabbed the game by its horns. Critter with those crucial moments, even Toa, like, damn, and Tiny May, they just did their job. Everybody just did their job, and that's credit to I guess the Penrith staff or coaching staff for getting these players the way they play.
Yeah,
and you got to give a big shout out to Chanel Harris.
Right. Oh man,
100%.
Right. What the heck? When that guy went down, when Brown went down, I was like, God. Yeah, fireman.
Yeah.
Even the two fellas that filled in, Lingy Sao and Tim Lafay. Man, like, what, they got the first 2 tries?
Yeah.
It was. Yeah.
Yeah,
They
were
played
massive.
awesome, man.
They were massive. Those two were close to
The
man
best players.
performances
Mm.
against England. Excuse me. But yeah, that England Samoa game was awesome, man. Like Poni touched on, Suali, 19 years old, man. The kid has heart. He's got all the
Freaking nature.
things to be special. But if you don't have heart, you got nothing, eh? And he's got heart.
Engine, is that your cousin? Did you say that was your cousin?
Oh, it's related to my auntie. So yeah, my auntie's married to his sister, and they're rainbow colors. You know the rainbow colors relationship. Yeah, keep going, Wendy. Keep going.
No. Even our forwards in that game, like Bonnie mentioned earlier, with the Samoan forwards doing better than the Tongan forwards in that game. I thought we played the English forwards big time compared to the first game when they ran all over us. Man, we muscled up big time in the game against England second time round. The Penrith boys, what can I say? Like I was saying before, like I say to everyone, like I'm a Penrith diehard. So if you want to talk Penrith, we can talk Penrith. But those boys, man, not only did they bring the energy for the team, but they also lifted the play for our team. And kudos to Jerome. Like that guy, man.
Right.
Thank you. Me or Jerome Luai? Sorry, my bad.
So Lom's Balangi name is Jerome. But no, we're not talking about you. We're talking about Daddy Jerome here. And man, what a game to step up, eh? You know, all the hate that kid gets.
Yeah.
It must be hard to even jump on Facebook or Instagram for that guy, eh? With the amount of, that's something we don't really talk about with players, the social media and all the crap that can be on social media. But man, he had so much pressure, not only from the fans, also the so-called experts, saying, this is a game he needs to step up and show that he can play outside of Nathan Cleary's shadow. And I think he did that in that game. But yeah, that was a massive win. And like Annie said, with the parades, man, I hadn't gone to a parade, and I kept on telling myself, next one. I'll try and make it to the Tonga Samoa parade with the Samoans and Tongans all parading together. And then the England one, I said, I'll try and make it. Sure enough, didn't go. But then when it was the grand final, I made sure I went out with my family and got amongst it with our people.
Nice.
So that was an awesome game. One that, like you boys have said, we'll never forget. That's a game that will go down in the memories of every Samoan worldwide. Here's a question. Is there a game, whether it's Toa Samoa or Manu Samoa, that is up there with the Toa Samoa England game?
The one that Pongi said earlier, the Manu Samoa Australia. That's historic. That's something that I never thought I'd see in my lifetime.
Yeah.
So that was a massive, proud moment for all of us.
Yeah.
For myself and me and my flag. That's why I got my flag out. So
that is a nice flag.
Loms. Hey, Loms.
No. You're right. I think that's the equivalent. Is that the fucking hell, Winston? The Manu Samoa versus Australia game in Sydney. Man, that was one for the memory bank for sure.
Yeah, I don't want to go off topic too much, but that Manu Samoa Wallabies game, man, we actually dealt to Australia in that game. It wasn't just a field goal to win the game and win by one. We actually sussed the Wallabies in that game, which was awesome to see. Now, let's move on to the grand final. Obviously, it wasn't the result that all us Samoans wanted, but how could you not still be proud of the team? Like, when the game was over, I wasn't even fussed that we lost. Sure, a little bit of me was wishing that we would win and that we, could play a bit more better and have the score a bit closer. But at the end of the day, I was like, man, I'm not eased at all, man. Like, I'm
Mm.
proud as we weren't even supposed to be in that grand final, according to all the experts. But how did you guys feel with the grand final? We'll start with you, Loms.
Yeah, the grand final was like disappointing, but at the same time, it was good for our people, good for us as a nation, and it's something that we can work towards. But yeah, just like you touched on, just that little bit of me that had that glimmer of hope that we could possibly, pull off a big win, but to no avail, I guess.
Yeah. What about you, Injun?
I was the thing about that final. That was like one of the first games my whole family got up to watch. All my kids. I had as Azaria and her kids were here. We were all up, and we were cheering from the get go. And I was thinking to myself, "You don't know the game. What are you doing?" But it was just their pride, we go down 1 try, 2 tries, and we're down 14-0 at half time. And I was like, oh yeah, we still got a chance. Still got a chance. And they were like, oh, we're losing by 14 points, Dad. I said, man, we still got a chance. Like, oh, come on, Samoa. I'm like, wow, it was like tingles, I was like, man, I can't believe my whole family with all these kids are watching this game because they're so proud to be Samoan. I was like, man, this is way more than a game. So it's freaking awesome, mate.
Yeah, it was awesome, bro. Poni.
Yeah, I think it's it was such an event that we went to the parades during the day, just the whole excitement with getting up, and everyone's got their beds and mattresses in the lounge, and
Yep.
like we all got up. The kids were in the room, but just on the play itself, you're watching, and then the kick where I think Harris Tavita kicks it, and Tedesco steps on the line. Yeah, and then you're thinking, what if, moments, that could turn the game. So, had we got that, we possibly score the first try, momentum, and, whatever. But, like anything, a game is not one on what ifs. So, those were the kind of crucial moments. And then once you kind of sense to see Tedesco start running from the ruck, and he's making heaps of yards, and he's targeting Polo, and he's targeting Papali'i. You sense that something is coming, and then something eventually does. They score the first try, they score the second try, and it's like, oh man, I'm just hoping this is not a 60 pointer. And 14-0 at halftime, still a great score. We had our chances. I think the biggest one for us was to score first. That was the key. But they scored first, 20-0, and then Toa scores to make it 20-6. So we were still in the ball game, and what defined the game was actually just how fast their play of the ball was, and how quickly they spread the ball, and guys are still turning, and that's Australia in a nutshell. They're so quick. With their game plan, their ruck play. You've got Harry Grant who comes off the bench. So while they're piling up the points, Winnie had messaged, "Oh, if it stays here, I'm going to be all good." And it was 24-10 at that session. I was like praying that would be the final score, because it looks better, I guess. And then they scored that last try just before the game ended. 30-10. Still, while you're disappointed that they lost, but you're proud in the sense that, man, these guys were the first ever Pacific Island team to make the grand final of a World Cup.
100%.
Yeah, and so that not only is a moment that you're proud of, but you look at social media, you look at all the parades that happen around the world, not just in New Zealand and Australia, in the States, in Rarotonga. and
Mm.
all those places that Alaska as well, and seeing all that, all those collages of all the parades and all the photos and everyone wearing blue, even back in Samoa, how much they really got into it, and it was one of the best, I think, not only days but weeks, leading into the final. And you can't help but just be proud as Samoans.
Mm.
Yeah, it was awesome, bro. The effect it had on our people, which we'll touch on very shortly. But again, yeah, the grand final, it was a big disappointment, but you couldn't be too disappointed. Um, like you guys said, there were moments that could have shifted the game. But overall, there is a gap between Australia and the rest of the world in rugby league. And I think they were going to put that performance against even England or Tonga if they had seen those teams in the grand final. Now, let's just finish up with the Toa Samoa World Cup and the players. Let's finish up with the player performances. For the overall tournament campaign, who played well or who stood out for you boys, and who do you think could have had a better tournament? Not that we want to be too hard on our boys, but let's be honest. Let's just call it how it is. So I'll ask Ene, if you want to go first, bro.
Yeah.
Players, who stood out for you during this tournament?
Probably the biggest standout is Joseph, the 19-year-old. He's probably the biggest standout. He was that guy when he said yes to Samoa. I didn't, because I like him as a player, and I like what he does on the wing for the Roosters, but I didn't see him being as good a fullback, than he is a winger. And then he just proved me wrong big time. So all he needs is just a passing game, correct?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He just
Agreed.
needs that passing game, and then bro, he'll be set as a fullback. But he's probably the biggest standout for me. And then you got the Penrith Panther boys. Jerome was like, they started talking about his old days. This is the Jerome that was playing in the, coming through the grades, and it was so good to see him flourish. Under those circumstances, in the world stage, even. So those two would be the two players that stood out for me. Yeah. Bloms, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I think you touched on the Panther boys. I think they were, they played their part really, really well. But I think the player that stood out to me the most was most probably Royce Hunt. He doesn't. You don't really know him when he's playing NRL. Like, he doesn't stand out like your Big Papa or your Junior Polo. But man, did he have go for it or what? Like, he had the aggression, just had everything, man. He just was hard on his sleeve, and he just played so hard. Tried every single minute, every game. To me, I think he probably had like their best tournament out of the forwards. And the backs, hard to say, definitely Luai. But I think a lot of people bagging him in that, but I think you take your hat off to Milford. Like, he's been around the block a few times now. He's getting a bit old, but who do you put at 7? Like, who does Samoa have at 7 other than, Tavita Harris that sometimes plays there, but so
yeah,
I think
You put Chikem there.
Chikem
Sorry,
can do a job, man. He can do a
sorry,
job.
Chikem. Sorry, boy.
Yeah, I think it's just those players you mentioned definitely stood out. Suali'i, Luai, and then you had your unheralded players like definitely Hunt. Yeah, he was he was that go forward, and he comes off the bench a lot for the Sharks, and he's starting now. So yeah, very impressed overall with just the up and coming talent for the tour. and just the injuries that set us back a little bit. But um, for me, for the player that was kind of probably expected more was probably Milford, because I had the hope that he would turn things around in the tournament, compared to the form he's been showing the last few years, really, with the Broncos and now the Knights. So I think it's fair to say that moving forward we should be looking to the future. And, probably Milford's played his last game for the tour, and probably look at guys coming through like hopefully Schuster puts his hand up again. We've got Dejan Assi, he's another talented player, and that Volkman kid, who's just had surgery, but a lot of potential with the Roosters juniors, and now he's with the Warriors, so we'll see how he goes next season anyway. So yeah, those are just my comments anyway on the players stuff. You can't really discredit any one of them really. They all put up their hand, from Junior Bolo to the guys that didn't get much game time. So I'm very proud of just how everyone stood up, really.
Yeah, shot boys. Never easy when you, especially throwing a question like that, having to say who you felt could have done maybe a little bit more. For me, Papa was a big one in the forwards. The young kid Joe at the backs. One player I want to mention is Critter, Stephen Crichton. Like I said it in our WhatsApp chat, the kid just seems to be in the right place at the right time. And that play, doing the intercept to score, and then the field goal, man, just the poise this guy has for a young kid. I think he's like 22 now. And what he's already accomplished in the game and in NRL, it's just like there's no stage too big for this kid at the moment, which is great to see, especially as a Penrith fan. Jerome, he was outstanding for me. Like I had always known this guy had it in him. And I would always comment on Penrith forums on social media when we had James Maloney at Penrith, and everyone, or even during the time, like I would always question, don't you guys think it's time that we give the young kid Luai a go? Even when there was talk of letting him go over Matt Burden, I always knew Jerome was the more complementary player with Nathan Cleary, because then it would feel like we had two Nathan Clearys if we had kept Burden. But yeah, I thought he had a massive tournament and was able to shut up a lot of critics. And then we've got guys like Tim Lafai, and then Lingi Sao, guys that had just, got the call up. Like, to be honest, I didn't even know Tim was still playing footy. And I thought Lingi Sao was still at the Warriors, but, just couldn't make the team. So I didn't know these guys were still, I didn't know these guys were in England for starters. But man, these boys, get the call up. We've got injuries, and I think Samoa had the most injuries throughout the tournament. And then, they just put their hand up for our country and said, you know what, man, I'm ready for this. So let's go. And then you've got Chanel, Tavita Harris, playing in hooker. That couldn't have been easy. And the pass he had pulled off to hit Crichton for the field goal against England. You've seen all the social media posts, all the stories, you've seen that play on social media slowed down. That pass is perfect, right on the chest. So he had a big tournament, and hopefully, career-wise, he can come back to footy. I hope he enjoys his time away from the game, and Yeah, so those were the players that stood out for me. Our forward pack, they played massive. Hunt, yeah, like you said, Lorms, a great player. And he showed that, he has what it takes to become a dominant forward in the NRL. So good luck to him for 2023. So that's our review, I guess, of Toa Samoa throughout the World Cup. Just want to look to the future for Toa Samoa. Boys, what's our future looking like going forward? Have we set in place, a solid foundation for us to be more dominant when we're playing teams like England, New Zealand, and Australia? What do you guys think? Well, we'll go with you, Bonnie. We'll go with you, bro. Sorry, I should mention who I'm, who should go first, just to make sure there's no confusion or us speaking over each other. But Bonnie, what's the future for Toa Samoa going forward, bro?
Oh, it's as bright as it ever has been, really. This is our movement that's happening right now. So what you're going to see, I think, is players now wanting to put their hand up for Samoa, not during the middle of their careers, not towards the end of their careers. We're talking about young kids who want to put the blue jersey on, and that speaks volumes for what the tour just achieved. So I can think of a number of names that probably will be in the blue jersey by next year. There's talks of Timo already wanting to put the blue jersey on, and probably the guys like Nanai, Taulangi. The fact that they've won a World Cup. What else is there for them to achieve other than state of origin goals? So it'll be interesting as well. That's another topic of conversation with origin eligibility, which I might cover off later. But I think it's a good time for the Toa Samoa to really continue just the achievement they had these last few weeks. And like I said, those young players, they will make a difference. And like Tonga, they've really got those young players in. You hardly hear of any Tongan players playing for the Kiwis or the Kangaroos now. So whether that's going to happen in Samoa, I don't really know, but it's very optimistic that we can field a team that's going to get to the World Cup again, World Cup final, that is, and win it.
Nice.
What about
nice.
what about you, Injin? What do you think our future is for Toa Samoa?
Like the media, they always bring up how the landscape of the NRL has changed from the early 70s, 80s. The Pacific Islanders, they were only like 10 to 20%, but now it's like 80% Pacific Islanders that are in the NRL.
I don't know if it's 80%, but
Well, that's what. Well,
it could be.
That's what I said. That's what they said, bro. I'll bring up the stats now.
Shut your mouth. It's not even 80%. It's like 40%.
They reckon there's a lot.
Where are you getting your stats from, Mr. America's team?
NRL 360. Oh, Paul Kenzie. That's my mate. I told him, silly. I said to Kenzie, if you want ratings, be racist, you can't.
Can you
I don't care. Oh yeah, no. Just I just agree with everything that Bongi said. But when you look at Taumalolo and Fafita, when they made the move to step up for Tonga, those guys were like the 10 billion, those 10 million, those million a year, players. But when you look at our team, those guys that have stepped in and said, I'm going to play for Toa, they're nowhere near the money that those guys are on. So it's just going to be more of an inspiration for the young guys to say, okay, I'll earn my, even though I'm not getting that million a year or the $600,000 or $700,000 contract, I'm going to step in for Samoa. I'm going to play for my people. And that's what I think the movement has done. So it's freaking awesome.
Yeah, but like, also just by doing so, like their value has gone up, right?
Oh yeah, massively.
You know, like
Mm.
surely you will command over $1 million.
Yeah.
As well as Critter. There's talks about Critter,
yeah.
getting that deal too. So I don't, enjoy your last years with your boys winning, because it's bound to happen to all. Critter,
Yeah.
They knew.
Don't remind me.
Yeah.
Just remind me that we're the champs. If you want to remind me about something,
Anyway,
the
the future is looking good. I agree with PL about the Samoa, but I just want to touch on I don't know. I went back on Sunday and watched the game again and started nitpicking the game. And one thing stood out for me when Tedesco scored his second try. I think I messaged Win about it. The celebration, everyone was like, jumping around, high fiving. But then the camera went to Tino, and it just looked like he was just like had that second guess on his look, like on his face, where he's just like, "Fuck, have I picked the right team?" Because he's seen it there, then you see it inside the sheds, and I don't know. I think that's where it's like with the future of Samoa, where it's heading. Yeah, where it's heading, and I think come the next time they select team, I reckon Tino will definitely put his hand up. But that's just me. I don't know. Probably just fucking assuming, but yeah.
You're not the only one that had noticed that. I'd seen that around social media a bit, and one of the other sources had mentioned that as well. I don't know. I think he, once he made his choice, he stuck with it. And I don't think he ever regrets playing for Australia, and nor should he. The kid's half Australian. And he's already played a game for Toa. I just think, to be honest, I don't know what to make of that moment. But I think he's definitely seen the power or the impact our team's done on our people. And dare I say, I think he wants to get amongst that,
Get amongst it, yeah. No doubt.
Just, I think any of our Samoan boys in the Australian team, they won the World Cup. Yeah, they got all this money from playing for Australia during this World Cup. But I think they'll trade that for being, the beloved sons of Samoa amongst our people, I think next time round, whether it's just a one-off test during the year or the World Cup, and they're still, doing well career-wise, and they get a chance to, be a part of the team selection, I think they won't hesitate picking Samoa over Australia next World Cup. But yeah, shot boys. I think the future for Toa Samoa is bright, but we need more test matches. The only way that we can keep this momentum going is if we have more games, whether the NRL try and figure out a 3-match series against Tonga, like a state of origin, or we have a Pacific Cup against Fiji, PNG, and Tonga and Cook Islands. All the Pacific teams just need more games, and the or the International Rugby League Board or the NRL, whoever it is that's in charge, they need to try and get that all sorted, because let's be honest, you do a 3-match series of Samoa versus Tonga, and it will generate the same money and it will generate the same attendance numbers than State of Origin. You put that game in Auckland at Eden Park, you'll fill out Eden Park. You put that game in Sydney at Stadium Australia or whatever it's called, it'll fill it up. You put that game here at Suncorp, it'll fill it out. So there's money to be made, but I don't know with especially the NRL. I don't think they will risk anything that will put Origin, that will not make Origin their first priority.
It was Super 16, yeah.
I think they won't do anything that will allow Origin to play second fiddle, and that's the worrying thing. The other thing is, I don't think Australia or the NRL or whoever runs the Australian Rugby League doesn't want anything that will upset Australia as being the number one in rugby league as well. But those are my thoughts on Samoa and their future. We've got a bright future, but we need more games to build on what's been built, what's been done here with the Rugby League World Cup. And then we got the boys. We got Payne Haas, we got John Schuster, we got Dino, we got the boys from the Kangaroos. They played in Kangaroos, and we got heaps of up and coming players that are coming out as well. So if we can get all these boys on board, that would be awesome going forward. Now we might as well touch on this one here, the elephant in the room, the Origin eligibility. What are your thoughts on this? Because this is a topic that's come up a lot on social media and in mainstream media. I might as well start on this one because I have been somewhat vocal on it. State of origin. Let's get this right. State of origin is state versus state. So until you produce a legal official document from the NRL or whoever it is that makes these rules, until you show me something that states that these players have to commit to Australia and this series or this competition was created to pick an Australian team, I don't want to hear that bullshit. If you're born in Queensland, if you're born in New South Wales, or if you've played your junior rugby before the age of 13, as the current rules stand, you're eligible for state of origin. And with the Tier 1 and Tier 2 nations, you're eligible to go play for Samoa or Tier 2. I don't see what the issue is with this, with the current rules and with the Polynesian boys playing for Tier 2 nations. Because look, the Australian team had no Samoans in their team, or they had 3 Samoans. I don't know if they had any Tongans, but they were more than fine in winning this World Cup. There was no issues with them winning the World Cup. And let's be honest, there's a handful of Polynesian players in both Queensland and New South Wales. And dare I say, they're not the biggest part of the teams. Like maybe there's Jerome, who's part of the spine, but usually it's the spine that's the big deal in a rugby league team. So I don't see where this is an issue. I don't understand why it's an issue to a lot of the Australian rugby league fans out there, because I don't see the players that we've got that are playing for Tier 2 nations really impacting the Australian Kangaroo side, because to me they won the World Cup fairly easy against Samoa. But what about you guys? Where do you guys stand on this? Do you think it's a good thing to change the rules and make players commit to Australia before they play Origin, or do you think it should just be like the current rules? And it's state against state. It's not country versus country or where you're born or whatnot. What do you guys think?
Well, I reckon in order to be a Tier 1, there has to be there's certain criteria, right? You have to have like a junior system coming through in your country or whatever. But that will it's going to be a long time till that happens to Samoa, Tonga. Our junior system comes through like New Zealand, or Australia. Those are the main. That's why we'll never be. Well, I can't say we'll never, because apparently Samoa's building towards that, trying to be the Tier 1. But in saying, if they take out the police from the state of origin, I think it will just weaken the state of origin. I think for the viewers. I'm not speaking just for myself, but I've had a few chats with a lot of some other boys. They just they would boycott, sort of like a boycott, but not really. They'll be really ika, bro, if our boys weren't allowed to play in the state of origin. But in saying that, they're always talking about there has to, how you're mentioning about the international. There has to be more international games. We just had a World Cup at the end of the year, right? Why can't that just be the window for international rugby league? Like it won't affect nothing. It won't affect state of origin. They will still have the state of origin numbers, but like Valenti said, when The Rock mentioned rugby league, there were free advertising, and he's got over 300 million or whatever followers. So, bro,
Just a little
that's
bit
just
more
a
than me.
plus.
Yeah, that's a good point, man. The problem is the NRL season is too long. It's too long for these boys. And then the ones that are playing Origin as well on top of that. But I can see what you mean. Just like rugby union, how they always have these tours at the end of the year from the southern hemisphere going over to the northern hemisphere. That's something they could do in rugby league. But yeah, good point, bro. What about you, Loms? How do you feel about the state of origin debate?
Bro. Honestly, I couldn't give a flying fuck as long as Queensland wins the next series. Don't care, bro. Who plays for who? It's up the mighty fucking Maroons, bro.
Yeah, that's the one.
And that's my
All
take
the
on
way.
it.
Yeah, sadly, we've got a New South Welshman amongst us tonight. But Bonnie, what are your thoughts on the origin debate, brother?
Where's your
It
passion, mate?
doesn't
Where's your
matter.
passion? Where's the passion in the jersey?
It doesn't matter.
I'm happy you chose the Titans blue instead of that ugly sky blue from.
If I'd known we'd be talking about this, you know I would have put my top on, bro. Yeah, it's just an interesting,
rubbish.
just an interesting time to be talking about Origin after a World Cup, you know, and it's Origin. It's the typical bogan supporter that's saying these guys shouldn't play Origin anymore.
New South Wales supporters.
Yeah. Come on, man. There's merit in all the arguments, but for me, if you take these guys out of Origin, you're pretty much weakening the product.
Yeah.
You're making people not want to watch the best players being able to put on the maroon or blue jersey.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm big on just leaving things the way they are, and I understand that there will be some kind of tension around the players who don't play for Australia because they want to play for their ancestral teams. So yeah, pure and simple, just leave things the way they are. And if you're going to talk about criteria, then there has to be a provision where these guys like Swali, they need to be on Origin, they need to be on that world stage, and they need to reap the rewards of their play during the season. But you got to allow him to still play for Samoa, because I know he wants to play for Australia eventually, but do they necessarily need him more than the tour will need him? We've got Tedesco, we've got Edwards, who can't even make the team. You've probably got Nico Hines at fullback as well, when he played for the Storm. And not to mention Storm fullback, who's always injured.
Pappenhausen.
If Pep is able, he makes the team as well. So I think you've got to still invest in these good top line players being able to play Origin and then turning out for the tour, Fiji, Tonga, whoever, just to make the game more even.
Yeah. It's a tricky situation, but yeah, you're right. The best got to play, and I've heard the argument: if the best got to play, you might as well just make an all-star game like the NBA, just have an all-star weekend kind of thing for NRL, which is fine. But these guys, some of them were born in these states, Some of them were born in Australia, and just because they've chosen Samoa on the international level, it doesn't mean that they're proud. They're not proud to be from New South Wales. These kids have grown up with state of origin as well, so they've watched it every year as a kid growing up, and they've always, they've also had that dream to, oh man, I want to put on the maroon jersey or the baby or sky blue jersey. Yeah, it's just it's such a messy thing, but at the end of the day, I think they got to play, and if the rules stay the way they are and they're eligible for it, then that's fine. Who was the player that got found out and couldn't make it? Was it Mulitano?
Mulitalo, yeah. Ronaldo, yeah.
Fair enough. He didn't play. They didn't try and push or change the rules or anything, and then he went and committed to the Kiwis. So that's fine, and that's a great example of the rules. You know why they have those rules in place. But I think if you are eligible on the current rules of origin, then that's great. But I think they just got to get rid of the tier system in International Rugby League.
Mm.
Who cares if they can't field a junior competition within their own company? The players are already playing the best rugby league in NRL worldwide. So get rid of the tier system. The only argument is the sponsorship and tier one money for teams like Toa Samoa and Tonga compared to what the Kangaroos and the Kiwis are getting paid in the English. That sort of needs to be evened out with the money because obviously World Cups previously we've heard what Samoa players were getting with this allowance compared to the 15 or 20k a game the Kangaroos were getting. So that needs to be figured out. But yeah, it's an interesting debate, and I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon because, like on a video I'd seen today on Paul Kent, he's realised that the Polynesian percentage in NRL is growing. So eventually, there'll be more pepper than salt. Looking at Lome and Engine's goatees there. But
Wisdom.
Shit, that's wisdom.
Okay, you got jokes now, have you?
He's
Okay.
a funny fuck, isn't he?
Now, boys, that's the footy side of things. Thank you for your time. Our last topic is the effect that Toa Samoa have had on our people. Not only Samoans, but also the rest of Polynesia. What's your take been on it, boys? I'll start off with you, Loms. What's your take been on the effect that it's had on our people?
Oh, bro, like the best, bro. Like, I think one of the on the lives in the airport, there was a spokesman for I guess he was speaking on behalf of Toa, but he just had mentioned that even our elders, the old people, got up early as in the morning just to go to the Manoa Lily just to greet these, the boys, and that's how much it meant to the people, the old generation, just getting there, getting amongst it. So yeah, it's been great for us as as a nation, and yeah, man, just couldn't be more proud than what I am now to be a Samoan.
Yep.
100%.
What about you, Ene? How do you feel about what's been happening with all our people rallying together behind our team?
I think for me, when I was thinking about the World Cup, the biggest impact for me was my kids, plain and simple. Go to church every Sunday. The ethics and that, and all of a sudden they want to hold the flag. Oh, you're Samoan now, is it? And that was the biggest impact, bro. Like it wasn't even about the game. It was the impact that it had on my kids and just the flags flying around, just everywhere. Like every time I would go to a customer, they'll be like, "Oh, he must be a Kiwi." But now it's, "Are you Samoan? Are you?"
Yeah.
Like, yeah, mate. How do you know? He goes, "Oh, I see all your flags flying around, And then they'll go to me, "Oh, but you guys lost." And so I would go in defense mode, eh? Yeah, but it's not about the game. It's more than the game. It's more about our people. And they're like, I've got friends that are Samoan, Okay. So it's impacted everywhere I go, bro. It's just impacted our people And Australians, see yacht because they don't know where we're from. Or when they see us over here, they see Kiwis. You're from New Zealand, So now everyone knows who Samoa is, So it's just impacted everywhere I go. So especially the kids.
Bro, PL, what about you, man? How's this impacted you, and what are your thoughts on the impact worldwide from our Toa Samoa?
Yeah, I think I've really touched on this one about, just everything that's happened the last couple of weeks with all the parades and seeing all the flags, or seeing the shortage of flags, people scrambling to buy T-shirts and anything that's got Toa Samoa on it, people queuing up and then finding out, it's sold out in 20 minutes. That's the impact that this campaign has had, just with the people. And when I'm going through social media, there's just everything is in blue and red. And one of the things that stood out was that photo of the parade in Goodna. Is it Goodna there?
Goodna, yeah.
Yeah, where there's just all these flags and there's a truck, and they're all coming. And that's like when they talk about the Tongan Red Sea, that's the equivalent of our thing. That's probably like I think Lisi call it the blue wave. The blue wave is coming. So when you see things like that, man, you're like, man, I'm so proud. So proud of not only being Samoan, but then you think about your parents and your grandparents and the sacrifices that they all made to get us where we are today. So, and then if you peel it back a bit more, you see the impact it's had in Samoa, where Samoa is predominantly a rugby sevens, and now with the success of the tour, now there's going to be kids aspiring to be the next Joseph Suoli, the next Jerome Luai, and everything else. So I think the winds of change for Samoa back home anyway, so you're going to see more programs. You're going to be seeing more resources poured into rugby league, because there's avenues now that potentially a kid that's playing league in Samoa will end up playing in the NRL directly, not having to go to Australia, not having to go to New Zealand or whatever. So these are the opportunities now that it presents, just with the overall success that the tour has made, and obviously just the reach worldwide with celebrities, and we said The Rock, with all his followers, and the impact that's now going to have on rugby league moving forward. So massive impact, bro.
Yeah, I'm with everything you boys said. Massive impact. The biggest impact for me and how it affected me was, like Annie said, my girls. Here, my girls, they've got Palangi in them. But man, they were right into it, eh? Wanting to get flags, wanting to get T-shirts, wanting to go to the parades, wanting to get amongst our people. So that's what we did with my in-laws, and we went to the Logan Parade here in Brisbane. And man, it was packed, eh? Like, I hadn't seen a crowd like that in a long time. But what I loved about it the most was that it was all our people, wherever you went, you just felt the love. Like, you just looked at someone from afar, just a little smile, even an eyebrow raise, and it was all good. We're all here for the same thing. And my kids, they had a ball at the parade. My little one didn't want to leave. Yeah, it was funny, So I had to drop my daughter off, my oldest one, to a birthday party, and the parade started at 4 and the birthday finished at 4. So here I am waiting around for her. So we finally get her from the birthday, and she sees that my little one's got a headband with Samoa on it, and it's got the flag on her face. So she's like, "Dad, I want to get my face painted." And I'm like, "Babe, we don't have enough time. Like, we got to get going, because it's gonna pack out with cars. Your auntie and uncle have saved the space for us to park next to them, so we got to try and get down there. And Logan's a 20-minute drive down the motorway." And then I'm thinking, why am I telling my daughter no? So I said, you know what? Yeah, that can all wait. Our parking and whatnot. Let's quickly do a face paint and do a headband for you. And the first thing she says, she goes, "I want 685 on my." I said, "You know what, Zara? I'll just do a Samoa flag for you." Okay, and she goes, "Okay, Dad." She goes, "I want a 685 on my forehead, Dad." I was like, "Oi, sorry." But yeah, just the impact on our people, seeing all our people come together. I'd actually driven through Logan earlier in the day to go pick up my T-shirts, my Toa Samoa T-shirts on Saturday. And I swear to God, every second car had a Samoa flag on it, eh? And every second car just happened to be a big four-wheel drive or you know, how our fobs do it out those ways, Loms, being from Logan. But yeah, man, everyone was just so proud. Like, yeah, it was amazing what these guys did. Like you said, Poni, the reach wasn't just down in the southern hemisphere between the Pacific. The Rock and his influence, just getting everyone, getting rugby league and Toa Samoa trending on social media, you know, that was massive. And then you see all the guys in different parts of the world, in the States especially,
Tua.
good as well. So I think the impact was awesome, young and old. I was saying within my own family, with family members, my grandparents were alive, they'll be so happy. Like I'd sent a photo to my family and I said, man, if Grams was here at the parade, she would have loved all the dancing and everyone getting amongst it. And if Grams was still alive, he'd probably want to stay home, but he would be awake at 3 p.m. to watch the games live. And like you boys, my girls were wide awake. We actually drove off to Macca's during halftime of the grand final. But yeah, something that might not come around for our people. So I think it's fair to say that we all made the most of our moment. The World Cup before was Tonga's moment, and the massive celebrations their people had. But this World Cup, it belonged to the Samoans and Toa Samoa, even though they didn't win it. And I think we all embraced the moment and made the most of it. So yeah. Boys, that's our podcast, man. What a first podcast.
Man, awesome.
But thank you for joining and doing this with me. Is there anything else you guys want to add to it? Well, actually, I'll get you boys just to add, if you have any social media handles you want to throw out. Or I can just actually throw it.
Hell no.
Edit the video. you want those DMs where...
Wrong crowd, bro. Wrong crowd.
Wrong crowd, all right, bro.
Just Henry on _757. Sorry. Are you writing it down or?
No. I'll add all of that stuff.
That's your North America's team. You do some research before you come on the next potty.
Poni doesn't add his handles because you might get those. Hey, you look like Asuelu. You look like Asuelu to me. Anyways, that's really dry.
Yeah.
Honestly. Henry, just get a different background, please. Take your whamalu down. Bloody hell.
I never saw the flag the whole time. Just doing it now.
It's
all
not
I saw
about
was
the
just
flag.
a red. Just a red. Next time, just message me and I'll show you how to do the settings to change it.
Hey, make sure you edit this part, bro, because I'm getting pissed off at these guys. I can't reach these, bro, because I'll...
Knowing us, we might get some comments saying, you know what, this is the banter we wanted throughout the whole bloody podcast.
or we could get, don't tell these boys, don't ever do a podcast again.
Yeah, that's probably one we might get actually. But boys,
but we persevere, mate. We persevere.
That's it.
Also, thank you very much for your time tonight.
Shot win.
For the rest of your night, going to sleep, and we'll do this again. To our listeners out there, thank you for tuning in. Hopefully, you're in this for the long run with us. But this is Let's Talk Sport, and I'm your host, Winnie V, with my co-hosts signing off. Thank you very much for listening, and everyone stay safe and God bless.
Para.
Thank you.